prior to reaching a speed of...
The three men never agreed on the speed at which they could no longer safely abort takeoff.
If you don't have your pre-planned criteria set up, like the V-speed, like other factors in the aircraft, you don't have the one measurable gate that can tell you at this point that you're good or not good.
Rotate.
Had they rejected takeoff 3 to 5 seconds after attempting to rotate, they would have still stopped in the clearway, and everybody would have just walked away.
Instead, they try to troubleshoot the problem.
They probably set stabilizer too low. Add some.
Until they run out of runway. Calculations show that from the time the pilots first attempted to lift off, they had 5 seconds to decide whether to stop.
They had time to stop.
They allowed themselves to get to the point where they no longer wanted to abort and would rather have continued on, which they did.
In the cockpit, there was a feel that the airplane is going to get airborne any second now. Any second. We'll a little bit more speed, and we're going to lift off.
Investigators conclude that continuing the takeoff was a fatal error by the crew. They can only speculate why they did. Perhaps the pilots felt pressure to get their prestigious passengers to their destination on time.
The crew, of course, was trying to do their best and perform this mission. Take them for their opening game of the season. If you have a maintenance delay, it doesn't quite look good in your company. Will they call you again? I don't know, maybe not.
Meanwhile, results from the brake system analysis are in. There's no evidence of mechanical failure.
The brakes were fine.
They calculated that having them actually fail independently, accidentally, altogether, the odds were literally 1 billion to 1, which will never happen.
The finding moves the investigation closer to a disturbing conclusion. One of the pilots must have applied the brakes himself.
We need to take a closer look at the crew.
Investigators know that if they announce the crew was at fault, the public will question their motives.
There's a very common cultural thread in Russia of blaming the people present for something that goes wrong. It helps to insulate those who put them there, or those whose decisions put them there, keeps them blameless.
Few are willing to believe that one of the 2 experienced pilots could have accidentally had his foot on the brakes during takeoff.
Many eyebrows got raised within the Russian airline industry. We know that the first officer was a very distinguished pilot, and he had almost 13,000 hours as a first officer and a captain.
But a review of the crew's flight records offers up a clue. Both pilots routinely trained on and flew 2 different versions of the Yak plane. The Yak-40 is a much older regional jet. Introduced in 1968, it carries up to 32 passengers. The larger Yak-42 made its first flight in 1980. With a swept-wing design and more powerful turbofan engines, it can carry 3 times as many passengers and fly longer routes. Both pilots were more experienced on the Yak-40 jet, but they also flew the Yak-42, depending on which was available. At most airlines, pilots are not allowed to switch from one type of plane to another.
It is improper and incorrect to train a pilot to fly 2 airplanes at the same time.
It's beginning to look like the crew's habit of flying 2 different but similar planes may have led to confusion in the cockpit. Focusing in on the brake pedals, investigators spot a small but potentially significant difference.
I want to see those pedals.
The Yak-40 brake pedal cups the pilot's entire foot. But the Yak-42 is designed so the pilot's heel rests on the floor.
They were flying back and forth, these 2 different kinds of aircraft, which happen to have different ways of putting their feet on the brake pedal. And that was when the aha started to appear.
A pilot accustomed to flying the Yak-40 might have placed his whole foot on the pedal, a mistake that could have activated the brakes.
If you rest your feet on the Yak-42 pedals, just like you would on the Yak-40, it is possible to create a pressure on the top part of the pedal and activate the wheel brakes. It is possible.
While such an error could, in theory, account for the accident, investigators still have questions. They can't understand why a pilot wouldn't notice his mistake right away.
You'd have to put about 10, 15, 20 pounds of pressure onto the pedals. And that is a significant weight. You would think a person would feel that.
It's not until they examine the crew's medical records that a possible explanation emerges. First Officer Igor Zhivyelov had secretly been treated for a nerve condition. He should not have been certified to fly.
The first officer had a neurological condition where the extremities sort of lose sensitivity.
He was losing the sensations in his legs. It was a medical development, it was a slow development, it didn't make him fall down, but it made him less aware of feedback from feelings in his feet.
So the argument was made that the first officer could have been pressing on the brake pedals without even realizing it.
Look what happened here.
It seems that the brakes affected the plane's flight in more than one way.
Football.
The brakes didn't just slow the plane down, they also kept the nose from lifting up.
It's going to pitch you down because you are being pushed by engines that are above the brakes. It's going to give the aircraft a nose-down pitch.
Engaging brakes on a rotating wheel creates a downward force on the nose. It acted on the Yak-42 almost like glue, sticking the plane to the runway.
You probably set stabilizer too low. That's up.
The crew's attempts to get the nose up only made matters worse once they were off the ground.
At that point, the braking force of contact of the tires with the runway now stops. And all the other forces that you've been putting into the aircraft, pulling back on the yoke, elevator trim, flaps, just to get the nose up, they are now no longer counteracted by the nose down force of the braking. The aircraft immediately goes into a nose up, a high pitch rate, 20 degrees up in about 2 seconds, and you can't stay in the air.
The sudden nose-up attitude causes the wings to quickly lose lift. Drag increases, the speed drops, the plane goes into a stall.
And you're just a big hunk of metal and fuel and flesh just falling through the air.
While digging further into the pilot's records, investigators make another astonishing discovery.
Oh, whoa. So he didn't complete the training?
In the training reports of the two pilots, it was discovered that in many cases, they had been certified as having accomplished certain flight tasks and flight challenges, such as poor visibility, bad weather flying, when they hadn't.
The captain went through training, then it was sort of put on hold, and then went through training again, and then switched employers. But the training was done inconsistently with breaks in between. Some of the training documentation for the first officer was not even available.
How much were you? 9? Maybe 8, I think. 8.5.
The crew, while highly experienced, lacked the correct training to fly the Yak-42. The Federal Air Transport Agency immediately suspends the operating license of Yak Service Airlines.
The fleet was grounded and Yak Service as a company was closed.
It was the people who had set up that disaster by not properly training them, by not properly assigning them, and by a whole series of regulatory failures and procedural failures that set up this accident.
There is one final revelation which helps investigators understand the precise steps involved in this accident. Data from the flight recorders shows the crew made another critical error just seconds before impact, one which ultimately doomed everyone on board.
What you doing? Full power!
Investigators are puzzled by something that was said in the cockpit just seconds before the crash.
What you doing? Full power!
The flight data shows that there was a momentary drop in engine thrust, accompanied by a brief deflection in the elevators. When they synchronize the data with the cockpit recording, a tragic picture emerges. After rolling off the runway, the captain moves his controls to abort the takeoff. The flight engineer follows his lead and decreases engine power.
The flight engineer thinks they have aborted, they are going to abort. He sees a clue from the action of the pilot on the yoke and puts the engines to neutral, actually powers down the engines.
What are you doing?
But the first officer disagrees, and the captain reverses his decision.
Full power!
He orders the engineer to put the engines back at full power and tries to take off.
Running a safe cockpit requires there to be a distinct chain of command, and the captain is in charge. But the problem with YAC services was that the first officer was actually bureaucratically his boss because he was the director of flight services.
It was their last chance.
Even a momentary hesitation as to who's in charge and whose word goes, that in a case like this can be the moment, the split second when you might have chosen life versus death.
Only 2 months after the crash, investigators release an initial report outlining the causes. The pilot's inadvertent braking is listed as a main cause of the crash.
But the real blame, as the accident investigation came to the conclusion properly, in my mind, was that the people who put the crew in that position were the ones to blame.
The charter airline YAC service is also severely criticized.
The crew was doing things that you could have predicted in advance they would have done. And they were not doing things you could have predicted they wouldn't have done because of the nature of the crew training, their background, their experience, everything that you could expect a pilot to do under those conditions.
The sole survivor of the crash, mechanic Alexander Sizov, requires ongoing treatment. He no longer flies. After suffering one of the worst tragedies ever in the history of sport, Yaroslavl Lokomotiv cancels their entire 2011 season.
The beauty of the Russian hockey system, I would say, is that they do have a great feeder program with those younger kids coming up. They have a team called Yaroslav 2 that is the next generation that would be ready to make the step.
The next year, the team made a triumphant return. Once again, the city of Yaroslavl has hopes of winning the cup. The Lokomotiv fans would also come to understand the true character of their late team captain, Ivan Tkachenko. For years, Ivan had been anonymously donating millions of rubles to seriously ill children. Only minutes before takeoff, Tkachenko made his last donation to a 16-year-old girl in hospital, a girl he had never met. For some, there's hope that the Yaroslavl disaster will lead to safer air travel in Russia.
Through my years of playing there, plane crashes were just, oh, Mike, it's Russia. That was the attitude of the players I played with and the organization. It's just Russia. And hopefully, unfortunately, a tragedy like this can hopefully maybe wake some people up.
There is a push from the government to clean up the industry from the small operators that are not quite being controlled, if you will, or inspected properly on a regular basis.
The crash of Flight 9633 shone a harsh spotlight on commercial aviation in Russia. Many in the industry believe that what's required now is a strong effort to maintain a culture of safety throughout the nation's aviation industry.
There's hope we can establish control, but it requires constant vigilance. That's not something that procedures can fix. Only a cultural change can fix it. And getting that cultural change is devilishly difficult. But if you don't do it, then you pay a devil's ransom.